Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dabblers. Today I have a special guest in one Lumko Jacobs, uh, owner of a label, uh, probably a future music mogul. So yeah, man, it's good to have you on the show. Been looking forward to this one.
It's away. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm quite keen. This is like the first time I'm doing this kind of thing, so I'm very keen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. That's really cool. Yeah. Um. So before we talk the business, right? Before we talk the business and all that, I want to dive like into you, right? And what got you into music, what got you into loving it to the extent of like wanting to be involved in the process of creating it
Mm-hmm.
and deciding the kind of role that you wanted, right?
Yeah.
So, so to start off with, what, how old were you, like age-wise, when you decided, hey man, I really want to like start doing this thing?
Um, like really doing it in terms of like being involved in music business.
Yeah.
Well, consciously, because I was thinking about this, yeah, the whole time before coming on here. But then consciously, like when I took a conscious decision, I'd say I was around like maybe 18, 19, like the first 2 years after leaving high school. That was when, yeah, I
Mm.
consciously like took a decision that I like doing this and it's something I want to pursue. You know, I still do know as much as I do now, like looking back. But then,
Yeah.
yeah, that was when I consciously decided. And then obviously there's a period like before that, which was like the unconscious part of it, I'd say.
All right. All right. I hear that. So I mean, in the country that we live in South Africa, anything that has to do with like creation, whether it's like music or like film or writing
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, it's it's not exactly the easiest thing to jump into. It's not the easiest thing to follow as a
Yeah.
career. Uh, yeah. So is there a specific thing that's like kept you moving through it, even through the downs? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
generally it's going to be like the cliche answer, which is like the passion, and the love for it, But then it's not like feelings you can like constantly like depend on. Sometimes
For sure, for
you're
sure.
right, you do feel down and you do like question yourself and ask yourself like, is this like meant for me or what am I really meant to be doing this? But then the love and the passion and the dream, I just can't seem to let go, yeah, of the dream I always had, I think. So that's like really what keeps me in there, no matter how I feel. I try to detach from the feelings because they change and you can't like really depend on them.
For
Yeah,
sure, for sure. Yeah, like
yeah,
yeah, man. Yeah, the drive to keep the dream going. I think as long as they stay, that's always a good thing,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Um, so you said like 17, 18 is the time when you take a conscious decision to actually decide to
Hmm.
start following it.
Yeah.
Whether before that or during that time, did you rap at any point? Was there a point when you actively like as an artist, like when you did you rap? Did you do any of that sort of thing?
So yeah, I was telling you, I was thinking about this like before I came on because I've never been like
Yeah,
on a platform where I've had to articulate this. I've always just been doing it
for
and been
sure.
in it. So now like articulating it, like I really have to think about it. So yeah, like looking back, um, like even from primary, there was this friend of mine. We used to write songs together. But personally, like
Hmm.
I grew up very introverted. Like I was very like I was extremely shy, like especially in like primary school. So I was never really
Yeah.
out there. It was just like, okay, go to school, go home, whatever, I was never really out there. So during that time, we were never exposed or even knew that, there's places you can go to as a kid, like, and record music, like the studios, like how artists would tell you they started going to
Yeah.
studios at like 12 and all of that. We never, like, me and my friend never really knew this at the time, So, but we were writing songs. I remember we used to write songs, and I used to, yeah, write. I used to write. So, yeah, I did used to rap, but I never was exposed to, yo, you could go to a studio, like, because I was very introverted. I was like a homebody a lot, like, yeah.
Mm.
Only in my last year of high school, I got exposed to that, oh, there is a scene in Bloemfontein, like where I'm from. And then after high school, that's when it jumped into the conscious. But things happened before that as well, that got me on that journey. But yeah, I did used to rap. Never went to any studios though, because I never knew about it even. Oh yeah.
Cool. So, so I want to jump into something you just said just now. You said there's things that happen that jumped you into the journey. Like, can you like sort of uh divulge further
Yeah,
into that?
kind of the transition between like the from the unconscious to the conscious. So what happened is like late 2015, like a few of my like very close friends like decided that, yo, we're gonna start recording music next year, like we're gonna start rapping, because I think they were very influenced
Okay,
like by the
that's
time.
pretty
Because
cool. It's pretty cool. If you
yeah,
think about it, like um, if if you had known that there was a scene for recording and we might be talking a whole different story right now. You might be,
yeah,
yeah, you might be involved in a different facet of the business. You know.
yeah, that's true. Because um, like I got onto writing early. That's what I'm saying. I used to write music. I don't even want to say I used to rap because I feel like we create songs. Like with no beats, nothing. Sometimes download some beats, but we create songs. And that's how I got into songwriting. You know, but then that was that, and then like for me, like I've always been like unconsciously growing up. I used to consume a lot of South African hip hop and South African entertainment.
Definitely.
Obviously, like the state's influence will always be there because that's what's in your face, growing up.
Hmm. Hmm.
But then I like leaned a lot towards the South African hip hop scene, like since a young age. I never remember where I was onto the house, when house was the big genre.
Yeah.
There's always been like a love for South African, hip hop and South African entertainment, and I used to consume a lot of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
just because I was introverted, used to watch like crazy amounts of TV, which was yeah, that played a part as well.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Um,
Mm.
so so you mentioned songwriting. I've noticed that you used to write. So does that mean like you don't do it anymore? You don't write songs anymore? Is it something that you might think of doing at a later point? Maybe you write a song for artists, something like that.
Maybe at a later stage. I don't think, man, like because I after high school when I told you that a few of my friends decided that they'd start rapping, what I did, I used to go to the studio with them because I was so interested. Like I've been so interested in this like South African hip hop thing, and then in my last year of high school, I found out there's a Bloom scene, no matter how small. And then my friends are like they're gonna start rapping, so I'm always going to the studio with them just to sit in. I never had the interest of, yo, let me jump on the mic. So I'd say over the years, I've got a lot more respect for the art of rap, and for the art of rapping, writing cool songs. But then I have actually written a few hooks like for my friends and my artists over the past few years. I just did one again like recently, but like there's a guy Vajo who's under my label right now that I started, and
Mm.
I've been I've been with him since he took the decision to start rapping in 2016. But even before that, we've always been like friends. So he knows that I have the ability. So if he wants a hook or maybe a hook that's in Vernac, that's in like
Yeah.
my home language, which is like Xhosa, he'll talk to me and we'll like co-write something. So it's still there, but not like full songs and writing raps because I respect the art so much.
Sure. For
And I know that there's also my art. my art, which I must handle, which is like the business of music. You know, that's where I must handle.
For sure, for sure. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool. It's like what you described just now, adding hooks and stuffs, like adding tiny little bits
yeah,
of stuff into the song,
yeah,
but it's also cool. Um, so I have an idea of you of your role, on the music perspective, but I haven't got it like a clear vision of it. So I just want to ask you, like,
yeah. Picture, yeah.
yeah, like describe it to me. Your role, how you actually got to the decision of saying, "Hey, man, I want to my own label."
Yeah, so that was also a journey, but at least it starts where, the conscious starts, which is 2016 when my friends decided they wanna like rap. So I'm always in the studio. I'm always in the studio with them. And then when they actually start dropping these songs that they've been recording, and that was still the beginning, like you're almost bad with everything when you start in the beginning,
Sure, yeah,
but you need to go through that phase in order to get better. So when they started, I'd just be like on, Facebook was a thing, obviously in the time, like before Twitter became the main thing.
yeah,
So I'd just be there posting the links. I'd just be the guy posting the links, but then I'm not on the mic, I'm not rapping. I'm not like a guy that's actually well known in Bloom at the time. But I'm posting the links because I've always liked like being an organizer, whatever me and my friends doing, organize, whatever, you know. So it just started with Vajo, who's still with me today. He just one day was like, "Hey, you could be our manager." I was like, "Oh, yeah." It started like that's all it took, just a conversation like that.
sure,
It was
yeah,
never really conscious. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be a manager," because I've heard that's all I knew about the business
yeah,
at the time, that you could be an artist and you could have a manager, you know. But then obviously that was the beginning of getting me into the journey, and then from 2016 onwards, like I got more and more into music business, and then I got obsessed with wanting to know how record labels work, and what you need to do to become a professional artist, and what all these organizations are. And I got more and more involved in, how does the music business work, how does the machine work behind the scenes,
mm,
and that's what led me on the journey of today, or only like recently, having my own like independent record label. Because being a manager,
yeah,
and there's so many different sectors in the music business, actually, which people sometimes don't know, but being an artist manager, and then being someone who signs an artist to a record label, or being a publisher, and then there's so many other more roles. I got to learn that those are like a lot of different things, those are different jobs, and sometimes you can't control all those factors of an artist's career. So like, to put it shortly, in all of the things I was learning, I leaned more and more to the recording part of it, like the record label part of it,
yeah,
like, because I got so obsessed with like learning how these major like record labels work. The majors just being like Universal Music, Sony, Warner. Those are the three major labels
yeah,
in the music business at a world level,
for sure,
even
yeah,
down to Africa.
yeah,
So yeah, I leaned more towards to that, and then there was a time where I knew that, okay, one day I want to have my own record label, and then yeah, the past 2 years were just the journey leading towards
mhm,
finally doing that. So I knew, and I made a conscious decision that, oh, okay, I'm not a manager anymore, or that's not going to be my mainstay. I'm not going to be an artist manager. I can help my artists manage themselves, but being a manager is a whole different job. And because I was starting a label, I knew, oh, you're starting a label means you're the CEO of your label, and you have all these jobs to run the label and like foresee the future. And I think that's what I like the most in the music business, more than the other stuff. But yeah, yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, if you
Mm.
if you look at, from what I heard just now, it's like when you're describing your journey, the one thing that I keep on hearing is like you've been learning the whole time. You mentioned learning about
Yeah,
Sony and Warner and the other company.
Universal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. So you're pretty much learning how to run a label. You're pretty much learning more about the music business. So you always getting more knowledge, and I feel like that's something that's important in
yeah,
anything. So
yeah,
so at the point that you're at now, you would. I'm sure you'd still say you have a lot more to learn, but if you're looking at the Lumko from in 2016 and the Lumko now, how big a gap in terms of knowledge would you say there is now?
Um, quite significant, quite big. Obviously, you say there's still so much more to learn. But then from when I started in 2016 and it was a basic conversation about just saying, yeah, I'll manage you guys. I mean, just the next 2, 3 years, I learned, oh, this is what being a manager is. And maybe I haven't been a manager. I've been marketing the music. I've been selling the music. I've been online. I'm the one doing the PR. You know, if you know like what PR is, I'm the one doing the A&Ring. I learned that, oh, I've kind of been doing a lot of different jobs at once, not like at a high level with high information. But when I got to learn about it, it was like, oh, I've been doing this. This is, what the best people doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing a bit of this. Oh, that's when I got to learn that, oh, maybe I wasn't fully a manager, because there's so much that comes with being an artist manager and the capabilities you need to have and a lot more things. But then when I knew that, oh, I want to run a label, did a lot more research. So yeah, it's really just been a progression of every year learning more and more, and one thing leading me to the other thing, and one thing leading me to the other, and coming to Joburg last year. Just from when I knew I want to come to Joburg, which was 2019, and then coming this side, just that I've learned so much in the past year. So it's always been a progression. So there is a big difference from the Lungo 5 years ago. But then I know that there's so much more to do now for if I'm saying I want to be one of the best like record executives, like in the independent label space, there's like so much more to do and master.
For sure. I like what you just said. I like the last sentence where you say you want to be like one of the best independent labels. I
Mm,
mean, there's been some stories that we've heard, especially in last year in 2019, about certain record labels. I won't mention them by name.
mm,
That that basically
mm,
explode and whatnot. So it's
mm-hmm.
I've always felt like independent, going independent as in music is the best bet.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, it's all just knowledge really, man, because like I've studied the game, I'm still studying the game. I'm forever gonna be I think I'm gonna be learning forever.
Yeah.
But then if you look at what the music business was founded on, you know, it was founded on kind of exploitation, which is the bad side of it. But you need to be conscious of it that, oh, this is what this thing was founded
Yeah.
on. And it wasn't founded on the best intentions, like, making it a fairer space for artists and giving them what's due to them. But that's how everything is in the start. And maybe the artists, were very conscious about how this whole thing works.
For sure.
So if you trace it and you study it, you know that, oh, and then it started, and then like when the rock scene, became big,
Mm,
those guys started pushing independence and like free will, creativity, artists being in charge of their
yeah.
creativity. It was the rock era. They started with bending the rules and like drawing outside the lines of what these big companies created. And these big companies did not create this thing with the intention of making it a fair space for artists. Like the honest truth about it is that they started it to grow their companies and make themselves like billion-dollar
Mm,
companies. And then, you know, it changed over time, obviously, what artists get, and different deals being structured and more deals being added to the music industry. And obviously a lot more artists becoming more conscious and smarter. But then when something is founded and its foundation now is founded and it's deeply rooted, it's so difficult to reverse like that kind of system. So
definitely.
that's why you always find traces of it everywhere, and you find it in South Africa now, where artists get exploited. So we mustn't think it's something new to us. It's kind of like what the music
Yeah.
industry was founded on by
It's
these
yeah,
big companies.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically part of the culture.
Mm,
It's part of the culture more or less.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's the bad side
Yeah,
of
that
it.
is the bad side of it. So so
Mm,
there was a conversation that we had a while ago with a few of
mhm,
the guys that we work with, right? And it was It was about the style
Yeah.
and the sound of South African hip hop and how it sounds way more American than it does South African. And and
Uh-huh.
and I feel like the core of the conversation was like there isn't a true identity in terms of South African hip hop style. I mean, you look at a
Uh-huh.
guy like AKA. I feel like he's the one who's like he's going out of to to remix quite a song so he can find or use the
Uh-huh.
more South African
Yeah.
sound.
And get that influence and identity. Yeah.
Definitely. So like, w- how long do you think it'll take, and do you think it'll happen where South Africa will reach a point where they have their own identity? Because I mean, look at America. We know what they have all these styles. Then you go over to the UK and
Uh-huh.
they have the UK drill and those other stuff. So do you think that point where South African hip hop has its own identifiable style or identifiable styles?
Um, yeah, I remember us having this conversation, and I'm at a point where, like, because I think it's a complex, conversation,
Mm,
because I think there was a point where we had the
yeah,
identity and we had the signature sound, but then I also think there was a point where we lost our way a bit. But it's not the first time, you know, like in terms of like how I've kind of studied the industry, it's all about cycles, and with how South Africa is still a very small
yeah,
industry. So we always want to have one sound that's like raping the street. It's like we can't enjoy like different genres at the forefront all at the same time. It's almost like our consumers can't handle that
for
yet.
sure, for sure.
There's some that can, obviously, people that consume music differently have their own taste. They don't mind listening to different things. But then in terms of what's big on the street, it's always like we want to take it one at a time. So you look at a genre like Amapiano, which is having its time. But then there was a time where SA hip hop was raping the street. And I think maybe at the time we didn't realize, but that was kind of like a golden era for SA hip hop, like from 2014 to like your 2016, 17. And then I think there was a shift. And then I think that shift is what got us to where we are now, where there's all this debate, is a hip hop authentic? Does it have identity? All these things. But I think besides that, there's more complexities there with like the business now as well, and how these newer artists are trying to set up their business and how much they know. But then I definitely think there's a time where we did have identity. Obviously, hip hop is an American genre. We got the influence from
Yeah,
America. If you look at like the first groups that came out in SA hip hop, but then after those first groups from the early 2000s, you'd say the guys were rapping in their own languages, like Pro Kid and Blabba and like Double HP. Those guys were rapping in their own language, and that was authentic. And that's how Double HP traced it, and he was able to tour. He was able to do a lot of things first, like as a mainstream South African artist, like break some barriers. Like he toured Africa. Maybe it wasn't the biggest deal, something we look at it today, but he toured Africa, he toured UK. He tried, identifying with this Mutwako original South African sound. But then there was a time again, there's a time back in the day where it kind of became Americanized again. And guys are rapping in English. That's really when even Dales had a huge influence. I don't know if you remember, like when Dales left
I
Juice,
do remember that.
he's the one that brought back this whole American thing with Tippy Toes and all those songs, and the snapbacks and all of that. And then there was AKA who came in rapping in English, and everyone was telling them, "Yo, you're not gonna make it rapping in English in this country," because all the big rappers before that were rapping in their own
Yeah,
language. But then now comes Dales. Dales does it for like trap, and but then AKA comes and he's rapping in English. And he was so talented that he was able to do it and did his thing. But as the years went by, like you said earlier, he started infusing more and more these original South African sounds, whether it's house, whether it's white or whatever you call it, you know. And that's what made him this huge superstar, because he was this very, very talented guy that rapped in like English. But as the years went by, he was able to immerse himself in this culture, put in all these references, and that's how you transcend to the rest of the
For
country.
sure.
You know, and then a lot of guys contributed towards that as well during the time. Now we're on 2014. It's Ricky Rick, it's Casper, it's the whole Cash Time movement, it's Cuesta, and then SBC comes into it, and then MT. So that's what I'm saying. That was a golden era of sorts. But then I feel like after 2017 there was a shift, and I feel like that shift, that's what has everyone like having all these conversations now about all these new kids, and no, they sound American, but we're forgetting that no, man, SA hip hop did go through this
It
once,
did. It did.
like let's figure it
It
out
did.
again. Yeah, let's figure it out again. But then maybe some kid now, there's like a lot more new consumers in the game, like a lot of young kids, and I don't blame them, but some consumers don't want to just do some research and like go like 10 years back and like see, oh, SA hip hop was like this, oh, this has happened before. Like all the opinions now are based on what they've seen for the past 4 years. So that's very flawed, I think. That's what I'm saying. It's a complex issue. But then I do think there's a time where SA hip hop will have another golden era, but it has to be different. We're not saying we want all the songs that sounded like they did in
Mm.
2014. We can have a whole different sound, but still, if you add those references and you add that South African authenticness, because that's what we need really, because of how America is set up. That's just how I see it, like
Yeah,
personally.
no,
Yeah.
that's true, man. That's true. Because if like, if looking back, I'm remembering all the way to like 2006, 2007. Um,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
the it's the first time I listened to SA hip hop for the first time, and I listened to Double HP.
Let's talk about, yeah.
Double HP was the first artist that I listened to,
Yeah.
and around about that time he was hot. Like I remember he was on Strictly Come Dancing, and he was doing all of these really. He was making,
Yeah, he was doing
yeah,
all these big
he was doing
things.
a lot
Yeah.
of moves. So around that time, there was a lot of guys. There was your Pro Kid. I remember listening to that guy a whole lot. And then I listened to Slicker as well, and the sound there was so it was
Yeah.
like very
Yeah.
little English, a lot of vernac, like they're dropping bars in vernac, and you're like, whoa, that's pretty freaking
Mm.
amazing.
Thousands and
Yeah,
that, yeah.
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 So, yeah.
You know.
So
Yeah.
now that we talked, the past and the current essay, let's what, what would your list be in terms of the top five current hip hop artists, like your top five in SA?
Um, Current, like I can't mention anyone from like which era, like the 2014 era.
Like okay, let's say 2021, like from the music that you've heard in the last 3 years, 2021, your top five.
In the
Yeah,
last 3 years. Okay, from the 18, that'll be 18,
yeah,
19, 20. Okay, I'm gonna mention like Anati. I don't
for
know if
sure.
you're
Yeah,
familiar
yeah.
with Anati. He worked with like he's worked with a lot of
Mm.
artists. But then obviously over the past few years, he's not in the space. He's not like playing this industry game. He's
He's
nowhere.
quiet.
Like he's
Is
been off
yeah.
social media since he dropped his album. So it's not even about that. But he dropped an album in 2018, Iyeza, which I felt like was sonically like amazing. I felt like we need to go there as well and see, oh, we can trace things like this, and everyone can put in their own authentic sound, and then we can export it to the world. I feel like I'm saying, he might not be like this guy in your face in SA, but I feel like things like that is the reason why he gets hit up to write for Beyonce. He wrote on Brown Skin
Definitely.
Girl and another song on the Lion King album, you know, because of things like that. So him definitely. Past 5 years, obviously AK dropped Touch My Blood in 2018, because he's my, like, on average, I'd say my favorite like SA hip hop artist, of all time. So because of the work he was still dropping in 18, I'd say him as well. AK and Anati, they did a joint tape even. So them are like my top two,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But then I like Grease. I like Grease a
Definitely. Yeah,
lot,
yeah. I've
you know.
always been a fan of Reese as
And
well.
Yeah, he just because of him, he actually gives me hope that SA hip hop is going to have a space where it's operating again. It's not going to be the same golden era, but then it's going to be cycles, and then there's going to be a cycle where people want to hear great SA hip hop again, and I think he's going to be at the forefront of that because he's doing things his own way. He's not mainstream. Like he's not on radio. People are trying to block him. But he's still moving like with his fan base, and he's able to do things, and he's able to sustain his career, and he's always able to have shows. Like bookings because he has a structure set up, and he's playing the long game. I like that he's playing the long game, and he's doing it. He's doing it his way. That's like kind of what hip hop is. Hip hop has always been a thing where let's break the rules. So he's tracing outside of what the majors have built. I like that a lot. I'm excited to see where it goes, like for him. So I like him. Um, and then yeah, I'd say those three. There's a lot of artists I like, man. But um, I like Blackie. I know he's been in the forefront of conversation in terms of now we sound too American
Yeah.
again. But I feel like there's things he's doing in how he moves, where he's adding references of South Africa and traces that I might sound like this guy from the States, but I
Yeah.
am South African. Just even if you check his Insta, he posts all his captions in Zulu. And in some songs, if you go through his SoundCloud catalog, they do chunk a bit of Zulu references in there. So I think maybe the more he goes and the more he becomes versatile and adds more of those references, he'll be an authentic South African artist. Even though he sounds American, but you need something that's gonna set you apart when you get that side. So I've really been consuming a lot of his music since the beginning of the year, and I like him actually. Just because I wanted to hear what the whole
For
promotion
sure.
was about, because people are already putting him out saying, "Nah, you sound too American." If he can add more traces of the Zulu, I think he'll be one. So yeah, just because I wanted to add someone very new there, because
Yeah.
that's why I'm adding Blackie and Reese because of what I think he represents a space where South African rap is still going to be alive. And then AKA Anachi because just of their musicality. And I'd also add a guy like MT. I mean, he's obviously the face of what can happen when a
Yeah.
label screws you over.
Mm.
That's why he's not really
He's been
at the
trying to restart
forefront
his
anymore.
career.
But he also dropped like yeah, but he's also dropped amazing music in my book over the past 5 years. So I mean, MT, aka Anachi, Aries, and like for the new guys rapping, I'd give it to Black because I'm still trying to see what this whole new wave thing is gonna take SA hip hop actually. Because I see the space and there's a lot of hype for these artists, but I'm still trying to see how all of them individually are gonna set up their business, and how they all gonna strive to be the best because that's the only way the culture is going to grow. So I'm still trying to see where the new wave is going to take us.
Okay, nah, that's a pretty good list, and I love the points that you made, man. Those are some really good points about like all the artists, and
Yeah.
Black is for me is currently like is taking a I feel like he's taking advantage of that's around him, whether it's good noise or bad noise. Because I mean,
Mm,
uh,
bad,
I
yeah.
always say when the people that hate you are listening to you, you're doing something right.
Doing something, yeah.
So to cap this off, man, I noticed the last few weeks you were pushing the album Poltergeist by Manic Cabana
Mm,
um until
like,
until
I
it
got,
got released just a
yeah,
couple of days ago. I've been meaning to listen to it. I haven't gotten around to it as yet. But uh, so I wanted to find out how were you involved in the creation of that project?
okay, yeah, just to try and summarize everything, with a guy like Manic there, obviously I had something in bloom, a whole movement, not to get too deep into it when the
Mm,
friends started rapping. I ended up starting this big group and they were all under it, but it never got registered, because of a whole
yeah.
lot of different things. But then with the three artists I have under my label now, two of them, which is like 30 and Vajo, they were part of what I was doing in Bloom. So I'm still working with them today, you know. And Manic, He's been living in Joburg. He's also from Bloem, but I only started working with him last year. And he joined like me, 30 and Vajo, you know. So he had been working on this poltergeist thing for a while, like before we even moved to Joburg. And then obviously now, like he starts working with us, and then it gets to me opening the label. So I set up this plan where they'd all be dropping their JB project this year. They're all dropping their JB projects. But it made more sense to put Manix one out first because he had been working on it for a while. So in terms of the creation, I'd say I came in with him trying to finish it, you know, and trying to get some direction on how to finish it. So I helped him a lot on that, you know, the last 40% of completing the project and like sequencing the songs and which songs would be there and not, you know. So yeah, I helped him in definitely in finishing the project and professionalizing everything and putting it out. So yeah, and then after that we're gonna have Vajo and 30 also dropping. So he just dropped so that's officially now the first release under my independent label. Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool, dude. It's been great chatting with you. So yeah, now you keep me updated
Yeah.
whenever one of your other guys have a thing coming out, and then I'll throw it into the EP. People know what's going on. But for now, I'm still curious at checking out Manic Cabana's Poltergeist. The title jumped out because a poltergeist is like a vengeful spirit, so that's like a really cool concept. I think that y'all worked on. So yeah, it's available Spotify, and it's just Spotify, or is it somewhere?
It's available everywhere. It's available everywhere. So you guys, yeah, you just obviously you see what I'm doing. But then yeah, Boundless Records. It's been a few months of me having started the label, and we're gonna grow and we're gonna try and keep improving that. Because that's all. That's all the thing is, you know, keeping on improving. So Manic just dropped the EPs everywhere on every digital platform. You can search Manic Cabana, you'll find Poltergeist, and they can watch out for Vajo 7 and 30 RSA as well, dropping this year. So there's still quite a lot coming. And after that, we're going to, you know, try and shoot music videos and, you know, just keep everything going, you know, leading into next year because it's all building blocks. It's all building blocks, really.
You're going to be a busy man over the next little while. And somewhere down the line, I get to work with one of your artists for like a soundtrack for a thing. I think that'll be a really cool project to be.
Yeah, definitely. You should check out Poltergeist on Spotify, and you check out the other music that's coming as well. It's definitely gonna work.
You, Lumko. Your episode will be out real soon. So I wish you luck with everything, the business, the artists, the exposure, all of that.
All right, now thanks for having me on, man. It was good to articulate, you know, a lot of these things that are usually just in my mind. And shout out to you, like I said in the beginning, is like my first time jumping on a podcast. Like I'm very interested in the podcast space, and I watch a lot of podcasts, and I think it's a very cool space in terms of South African entertainment as well, you know. But something I'll get into later. So it was dope for me to kind of have my first experience of it on here.
Yeah, man. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Dabblers with Lumko Jacobs. Peace out.